Remember the good old days when Samsung would release one Galaxy S model in the spring, followed by a Note model in the late summer? Friends, that seems like ages ago. Because in 2019, Samsung is going Goldilocks on us, releasing not 2, but 3 new phones, one of which is hopefully just right for you. Hey, I'm Daniel with Android Central, and let's get into our hands-on of the Galaxy S10, S10 Plus, and S10e. I'll start by contradicting myself a bit. There are actually 4 new Galaxy S10 models being announced this year, but we'll save that surprise for the end. Let's start with the familiar, the S10 and S10 Plus. Unless you've kept away from the internet for the past few weeks, you likely know that the big aesthetic change this year is the hole punch. Argue amongst yourselves as to whether it's better or worse than the notch, but on the Galaxy S10, I think it looks great tucked into the top right of the screen. The S10 Plus, however, which has a second camera sensor for better portrait selfies, looks like it has a couple of eyes staring back at you. But whichever phone you choose, I reckon you'll get used to the design pretty quickly. As with every annual refresh, the phone's Super AMOLED displays are well improved over their predecessors, with a 93% screen-to-body ratio, higher 800 nit brightness, and support for HDR10+, which arguably gets these about as close to cinema-quality displays as we've seen on a smartphone. In short, they look incredible, and each one is a bit bigger too. 6.1 inches on the S10 and 6.4 inches on the S10 Plus. That increase comes without much of a bump in overall phone size, since there's less bezel and a slightly taller 19:9 aspect ratio. The OLED display is also now home to the first ultrasonic fingerprint sensor shipping on a smartphone today. The tech is Qualcomm's, and it's in partner with the Snapdragon 855 inside the phone. In my brief time with it, I was impressed with its speed and accuracy. It seemed on par with the capacitive sensors we've been using for half a decade now, and far more reliable than the in-display variants that shipped on devices like the Huawei Mate 20 Pro and OnePlus 6T back in 2018. Let's hope this year brings more of this kind of biometric innovation, because boy, do we need it. Of course, your phone is only as good as its camera, or these days should I say cameras. And the Galaxy S10 series once again ups its game. Thankfully, you won't have to decide between a comfortable one-handed phone or camera features this year, as the S10 and S10 Plus share identical rear camera setups. That is an upgraded 12-megapixel main sensor with that variable aperture we grew to love in the S9, along with a familiar 12-megapixel telephoto, and new this year, a 16-megapixel camera with an ultra-wide 123-degree field of view. I'm genuinely excited to see what kinds of pictures I can get with this combo, especially since Samsung's camera app is a little bit more reliable than LG's or Huawei's, whose phones also employ ultra-wide lenses. But I'm more interested in seeing how Samsung stacks up to the Pixel 3 in terms of low light. No phone has come close to Google's Night Sight just yet, and if Samsung can bridge that gap, these could be the phones to beat in 2019. I said the S10 comes with a Snapdragon 855 in North America, or an Exynos 9820 elsewhere, but what's really interesting are the memory configurations. Both the S10 and S10 Plus come with 8GB of RAM and 128GB of storage standard, and both add 512GB options for a bit more money. But if you're really spendy, you can grab an S10 Plus with a ridiculous 1TB of storage and 12GB of RAM. Oh, and those variants come with ceramic backs, which adds some extra pizzazz and a little bit of additional scratch protection. Now let's talk about the Galaxy S10e. It's the same size screen as the Galaxy S9 at 5.8 inches, but uses the new Infinity O display to great effect. The phone is basically the same size overall as the Galaxy S7, which only had a 5.1-inch display back in 2016. The 10e also lacks the curved glass of its more expensive counterparts, and omits the telephoto lens on the back, and trades the ultrasonic fingerprint sensor for a more familiar side-mounted sensor power button combo. The big draw here with the S10e is the price. Whereas the S10 starts at $900 and the S10 Plus at $1,000, the S10e is a more modest $750, unsurprisingly identical to the iPhone XR. We'll wait until the full review to dig into the software of all these phones a little bit more, but here's something to look forward to. It's now possible to remap the Bixby button to open any app you want. We'll let that sink in for a second. It took 2 years, but Samsung finally listened to its customers' demands. If you're into battery life, thankfully each phone ups the ante a little too. 3100 mAh on the S10e, 3500 on the S10, and 4100 mAh on the S10 Plus. You also get a new and improved fast wireless charging standard that promises the same speeds as wired charging, and on all three you can output wirelessly to charge the new Galaxy Buds or anything else, including phones. And finally, I did promise you a surprise, so here it is. Whereas all three new Galaxy S10 models support LTE speeds up to 2 gigabits per second, Samsung's also releasing a 5G variant aptly called the Galaxy S10 5G, which is coming to Verizon exclusively for a little bit later this year, followed by AT&T as well. I wasn't even able to hold the phone during my short time with it, but here's what I know. It has a massive 6.7-inch display, a fourth rear camera to help with depth and AR positioning, and a massive 4500 mAh battery. Oh, and a likely massive price to go along with it. If you want to see a full review of that phone, hit subscribe before you bounce. So that's the Galaxy S10 series. Some big improvements and lots of minor ones, along with a not so minor price bump. The big question I have is whether the Galaxy S10e will be the default choice for most people, or whether it's a bit too much of a compromise. The other phones, however, are solid upgrades to two of the best phones you can buy today. Pre-orders for all of these phones open February 21st with a street date of March 8th across most of the world. Check back soon for our full reviews of these phones and let us know in the comments below which one you'd choose if you were going to pick one up. This has been Daniel Bader with Android Central. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.